dads, we are the head of the household, and God's going to come to us. Like, he's going to hold us responsible for the way that our family is shaped. You know, like you think about the Garden of Eden, even though it was Eve that did the sinning, the tempting, God went to Adam first.
So now we're at a segment that I like to call Best and Worst.
Yeah.
So first I'd like to hear about your best moment either as a husband or a father. It's something that stands out to you.
Best moment as a father. I mean, like, it's hard to beat the birth of your children, right? And how wonderful that was. And I would definitely say, like, with Katie, now that she's getting older, she's 2 years old now, and you're starting to see the fruit produced from her, you know, of just raising her in a godly way, leading her down the path that God intends us to do, has been a tremendous blessing. Actually seeing that now, you know,
yeah,
and going over different things like the commandments with her, loving our neighbor as ourselves, loving people the way Jesus loved us, that kind of thing. And
right,
you're starting to see that now with Katie, and I think that's just, it's one of those moments, I think, as a dad, especially a Reformed dad, you know, you get to see that, where it says in Proverbs, you know, the lead a child the way that he needs to, and he will never depart from it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just really cool to see that.
Yeah.
See that taking place.
Yeah, there's a difference between telling your child, don't do this, mm-hmm. or giving them the reason behind it,
right,
and relating that to Scripture. Like, are you glorifying God in your behavior? Right. Are you loving your neighbor as you love yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just the biblical principles behind it, besides me just saying, no, don't do that.
Right.
That's not right.
And giving her a foundation for where these commands are actually coming from. I'm not just pulling these out of thin air, you know, it's not like a relative morality type thing. It's we're standing on the biblical foundation for it, and
yes,
and it's really the only way to do it is what God says. I mean, you got to start with the biblical foundation with everything.
Yes.
And so any kind of question, any kind of issue, concern that pops up, we're like, okay, well, what does the Bible say about that? Let's
right.
look into it. Let's research it. So and it helps too, as well as a dad, helps also sharpen your faith, gets you into the Word a little bit more. So I think God is also able to use that for your sanctification as well.
Yes, I would absolutely agree. And I would say that there's a difference between saying, well, because I said, and then because mm-hmm. God said, mm-hmm. right? Well, because God said, and when we say because God said, we're actually holding ourselves to a higher standard right. as well.
The only standard.
And it's not our standard. Mm-hmm. It's the standard that God gave us. So our children know that we're not just saying this because I said so,
right.
but we also have to adhere as children of God to this truth that God has given us, right? We're the heads of our household, mm-hmm. but also that we have to ask for our children's forgiveness at times. Absolutely, when we're angry.
Because we're fallen creatures too. We're sinful, fallen man, and we're gonna trip up. We're gonna mess up, and always trying to also explain that to your children, explaining that to Katie. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna lose my temper sometimes, and you know, I just have to ask for their forgiveness as well. And it's also one of those sanctification moments too. Just realizing your own fallen nature and how much you're going to depend on God, how much you need His Spirit in those moments so much.
I see my fallen nature every day with my kids. Yeah. Every day.
Right.
Like, I see my selfishness, you know, or my anger. Yep. And, well, that's a good segue into what is the worst moment that you've experienced as a dad or a husband since you've been married or had children?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I feel like, I don't know, as Christians, we don't really have worse moments or bad moments. We have sanctification moments, right? We have times where we think we're just like, oh, I can't get through this, but God says, I'm there with you, right? I'm gonna step you through this. So I would say one of those biggest moments, I would say like the most terrifying moment, was also when my children was born, having the reality, like when Katie was born, the reality, okay, I have another human being now that I need to be responsible for.
Sure.
I need to train. I need to raise her. It's just something clicks in your mind where you're just like, it was terrifying for me at first. I was just like, okay, this is real. I'm a father now. I have a tremendous responsibility now.
Yes.
And ultimately, like you were saying, we're as dads, we are the head of the household, and God's going to come to us. Like He's going to hold us responsible for the way that our family is shaped. You know, like you think about the Garden of Eden. Even though it was Eve that did the sinning, the tempting, God went to Adam first.
Sure.
You know. And,
yes.
I feel like He's going to do that with us too.
Yeah.
And He's going to hold, because we are supposed to be the head of, kind of like how Christ is the head of the church, as it says in His Word. That's our responsibility, and I believe it's probably the best and worst moment.
Yes. Yeah, and you're so used to living life, you and just your wife, and now you had your life set up a certain way where I do this at this time and this at this time, and all of a sudden it's just like, all that's done.
You have to die to yourself. You got to die to all those fleshly, selfish desires of, you know, normally when I come home from work, I want to just veg out. I want to just maybe turn on a game, just do my own thing.
Yep.
But you need to sacrifice that. You gotta sacrifice that. You have to, you know, really think about your kids' needs first, and everything else has to come second. Everything else, you know, because your family, your kids have to be your number one priority. It's like, it doesn't matter what else is going on in your life. And being able to reorient those priorities for me was at first kind of a struggle, and it's always going to be a struggle, right? You're always going to struggle with that every single day, but you know that's just part of that sanctification process that God makes us go through, refining us, you know, and like refining metal basically, and that's what I always think of.
Yes, that's right. Refining gold, melting off the impurities.
Yep.
This addition versus submission. Sinners need forgiveness. Surrender to His lordship. Don't extort the grace He's given. See, I'm blessed by the one Yahweh all day. I'm a wretched sinner, deserve hell for always.